Welcome back to the Speak Daughter podcast. We are in season 2. Season 1 was a season full of learning and just being obedient and bending no matter what. And I don't know what God has planned for season 2, but I'm here for it. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm moving forward regardless. So yeah, we can just jump right in. I know 100% that there are people who will listen to this who can relate to what it is that we're talking about. I feel 1,000,000% that I have been in a season of waiting for a really long time. And I feel like I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think waiting can be tiresome. Waiting can bring up through a lot of different emotions. I've been frustrated. I've been angry. I've been sad. I've been desperate. All of these things throughout my season of waiting. But what I feel has helped me through it so far, because I'm still waiting, is really looking to God and reaching towards Him instead of being like, crap, like, when is everything going to change, and just trying to find out and really dig deeper to understand why I am here and what it is that God is teaching me, or trying to teach me, trying to put in me or pull out of me. So yeah, that's what we'll be talking about in the first episode of season 2. And the title of this episode is How You Wait Matters. And I feel like that is one of the biggest things that I keep telling myself is how I wait matters, how I wait matters. So just a little background as to what I'm waiting for. Let's start there. So I wear many, many hats in my day-to-day. I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I work full-time as an instructional designer for a telecommunications company. But I am also, I'll call it a serial entrepreneur. I'm a photographer. I run a photo booth company, a Denver-based photo booth company. And I am also stepping into a space where I'm helping other small business owners kind of really, not kind of, but set themselves up for success on the back end, with building out systems and just organizing and building their business based off of their client experience, like what they want their clients to experience. So there's a lot that's going on, or a lot that I do on a day-to-day basis. And what is in my heart of hearts is to be able to have my businesses grow to a place where I can quit my full-time job. And it comes from a feeling of just being stretched really thin. And there's a lot of days where I do feel overwhelmed, and a lot of days where like I do get frustrated and I do get angry, and I'm like complaining to my husband and like just in all transparency, just having a bad attitude about like I'm still stuck here and I'm just like, what is going on? I'm doing everything that I know to be doing, and progress is taking place, right? But it's just not happening at the pace at which I want it to happen. And there's a lot of frustration that comes from that, and I think that it's very easy to, at least for me, to put myself in a place where I don't want to say like discouragement, but I can like, man, like I'm trying and I'm doing everything. And outside of everything that I'm doing, I still have my children. I still have my husband. I still have my household that I'm taking care of. And when all of those things kind of pile on top of each other, that's where it gets very, very difficult for me. And I think I mentioned this in season 1, where I've been reading through the Bible for the first time in my entire life. I'm 37, y'all, and I grew up in church like since I was 5, and at 37, is where I'm like, no, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna read to understand, and I'm gonna read to apply what I'm reading to my life. So obviously, in this season of waiting, I feel like because I'm so inclined, not just me, but I think everyone, we're so inclined to lean on what we see and lean on how we feel. My heart and my ask from God is just give me wisdom and give me understanding. And I want to know like what I should be doing, why I'm here, what I should I want to have that insight so that I don't miss what the waiting is for, right? Because when we're waiting for the thing to happen, or for the breakthrough, or for the miracle, or the turnaround. We're waiting for those things. But I believe as a Christian, as a believer, that our wait is about preparation. Our wait is about doing the work on the inside, or allowing God to do the work on the inside of us, to put in us what needs to be there and take out of us what shouldn't be there, in order to prepare us for when the time comes, when the waiting is over. So in this time of waiting, my heart's ask from God is for just wisdom and understanding. Just wisdom and understanding for why I'm here, what it is I'm supposed to be doing or learning, and for him to do the work on the inside of me, the refining that has to take place, the preparation that has to take place for when it's time for the wait to be over. And I wish I knew all the answers to those questions right now, but I don't, so I'm still waiting. But I definitely believe, as believers, when we're waiting for that miracle, we're waiting for that breakthrough, when we're waiting for the thing to happen that we've been waiting for, it's all preparation. And there's something that God needs to take us through, or put in us, or take out of us, or break off of us, that can be detrimental to the time at which we get what we've been waiting for. So in the Bible, best place for wisdom and insight, at least for me, is Proverbs, written by Solomon. And man, the amount of times that I can go back into Proverbs over and over and over again, it's just, I always find something new. I always find something new, or read something, or just interpret something differently that applies to my life in that moment. And so when it comes to waiting, right? Of course, the title of this episode is How We Wait Matters. And for me, it's specific because, like I said a little bit ago, I can or maybe it was last season, I can have a bad attitude about just small things, or things that get, irritate me or bother me. And I think the thing with a bad attitude, and the thing with like sitting in it, is it snowballs really quickly. And that one bad attitude turns everything bad. And I've seen that time and time again, where the bad attitude can make the smallest thing just so much bigger, so much more annoying, so much more irritating. And again, like I said, it just snowballs. And that's not really, I think that we miss God, and we miss what he's trying to teach us when that's our inclination, when that's what our go-to is. So just starting in Proverbs 14:1, it talks about a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish woman will tear it down with her hands. And I kind of replaced the hands word, at least for me in this season, with attitude. And like, in the same way that your words can tear things down, I think your attitude can tear things down, because it shifts your mindset, and it almost kind of, I'll say, like, covers it with a fog, to kind of like what it was I was saying, like, it covers it with a kind of fog that where everything that you see is bad, you know, or everything that you see bothers you or irritates you, and you aren't able to see the blessing in those things. You aren't able to see God's graciousness and his gratefulness and how much he has given when you're just stuck in a bad attitude. So with this episode, I think my main goal is really to have everyone who listens walk away with just a few things that they, like, tangible, practical things that they can do to apply to their life right now while they're waiting. And when we talk about, like, tearing down our world, tearing down our household, tearing down our atmosphere with our attitude, the best way that I'm finding is just to be intentional, you know, like, ask God for the awareness when your attitude is out of check. And trust me, he will do it. Because for me, it comes like in little different ways. Sometimes it's like my husband being like, you need to relax. And sometimes it's, you know, maybe something will happen with my kids and it's like, why am I so angry? You know, or sometimes it comes through like a breakdown and I'm crying and it's like, why am I tripping? Why am I hurting? Why am I so frustrated with this situation, with this thing right now? Like, having that awareness can lead to you intentionally combating like that bad attitude while you're waiting. You know, it's kind of, I think about like the Israelites, right? Like when they're going through the wilderness and they're just complaining. They're just complaining and complaining and complaining. And Moses was complaining too. But there's two ways that that's different. Or yeah, it's different in two different ways. The Israelites were complaining to each other about their circumstances. Moses took his complaining to God directly and being like, hey man, like, what's up? Like, what's going on here? And how can I move through it, right? So I think when you are experiencing moments where you're upset and you're bothered or you're frustrated or you're angry or you're sad and you feel like you're falling apart, be intentional in those moments and be mindful of the things that you are saying about the circumstances, you know, because obviously the word tells us that our words have power. And I 100% believe that. And my pastor back home, he says, you will have what you say. And I 100% like believe that. And that's something that's always like in the back of my head, right? So if I'm angry at work and I'm like, man, I hate it here, I wish I didn't have to, like, something could happen where that's no longer the case, but the circumstance at which I'm no longer there is not God's intention, God's plan, right? Because again, our words have power. Our words have the ability to shift atmospheres, to cause things to happen, you know, in the natural and in the spiritual that we may or may not intend. So definitely being intentional with how you are responding to like the emotions, you know. I'm learning, even with that, I'm learning, like, if I'm frustrated, I can tell God that. Like, man, it was just the other night, I was like crying in bed, and like that song, there's a song by Jamie McDonald called Desperate. And I was just singing that song to myself as I was like falling asleep, and I was just bawling. and I'm just like, God, I'm desperate. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I feel so stretched thin. I'm desperate, and I need you to show up for me, He's not afraid of like those big negative emotions. He's not afraid of us being upset or being angry. Those are things that he can handle, and even more so, he wants us to take those things to him, so he can give us an answer. He can send someone or something along the way that can give us the answer or the response to what we're dealing with. So going from Proverbs 14:1 to 14:3, right? It directly to what it is that I'm saying, right? A fool's mouth like lashes out. A fool just kind of speaks without thinking. When I hear fool, like that's kind of what I think is like, man, you just say stuff. You just say stuff that doesn't help. You're just talking. You're not saying anything with intention. You're not building anything with intention. You're just talking. And I don't know if y'all have ever been around someone who just says things. You just look at them like, what's the matter with you? And I kind of feel like maybe I don't want to say that's how God looks at us when we just kind of spout out from like our emotions or what we're feeling. But he's probably like, man, like if you only knew, like, I got this, don't worry about it. We probably wouldn't respond in that way, So again, just being intentional in those moments and knowing that what comes out of our mouth as it pertains to our attitude has the ability to impact like our own atmosphere. Another thing to do that I'm learning while you're waiting, right? Because I've definitely been in situations, I've definitely had times where I'm like a kid pouting in a corner. Like, I'm not going to do anything. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm doing all the work. I'm doing everything that I know to do, and I don't see like my situation change. I think, and I feel like that's normal, right? With our friends or our family or our spouses or like even our kids do it when they don't get what they want, when they want it. That's a natural response, right? Another thing that I think is important to talk about during the wait is to not just talk about like what you want to do or what you want to happen, but it's also putting the work behind it. Proverbs 14:23 says that all hard work leads to profit. All hard work. But mere talk only leads to poverty. So for me, what that looks like, I'm a creative at heart. And if my husband was here, he'd probably tell you, I'm always like, babe, what about this? I have this idea. Matter of fact, that's how like all of my businesses have started. It was like, what about this? Like, I have this idea. And I can get really excited about them, and then I'm talking about them, and I'm planning, and then I'm, but if the talk never gets to a point where it leads to real work to those things, to that thing, then we go nowhere. We gain no ground. We don't move forward. And the idea, and I don't know about you guys, but I believe 100% that every idea that comes into your head, if it is a good thing, is an idea that comes from God. And one of my prayers, I pray often is, God, give me the ideas, give me the creativity, give me like the insight and the wisdom and the guidance to just do what it is that you put me here to do, right? And there's never, ever a shortage of ideas or things that he gives me to do, right? But what I can say is if I have that idea and I have that creativity and I do nothing but talk about it, like, what happens? If I'm put here to advance God's kingdom, if I'm put here to be a mouthpiece and to say the things that I'm supposed to say and to build and to help other people build, and it never ever gets further than my lips, what happens? And if we believe that the word is true, then we have to trust that everything that we do is a seed, and every seed that we plant leads to profit. Then we have to take the hard work period seriously enough to, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it sounds like, no matter how long it takes, we have to trust that it's going to yield whatever God intends for it to yield. But again, going back to our attitude, right? If all we're seeing is our circumstance and all we're seeing is like, this isn't happening soon enough for me, so I'm done, then again, we gain no ground. We do nothing. We don't move forward. And I think it's also Proverbs that says like sleeping and like laziness only leads to more of that, And it's a very slippery slope. And I think it's very easy to just kind of, oh, I'll just do it later. Like, I'm not seeing the result. I'll just do it later. But again, if the word is true, we have to know that the opposite of hard work and the opposite of not putting in any effort and being diligent and being intentional with the things that we do lead to poverty, lead to lives not being impacted, leads to maybe our children being negatively impacted, or a marriage, or just the purpose and the plan that God has for us not coming to fruition, not because he didn't want it to, but because we just refuse to move forward. So in the waiting, be intentional and be diligent and just move the needle forward. However that looks like, whatever that looks like. If it's working on the thing 30 minutes a couple of times a week, it's still moving it forward. It's still building like momentum. And I think for me, I'm a very proactive, like I can get it done now. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to move forward. But that, even for me, can be very exhausting at times. And I'm learning that hard work doesn't always mean like the hustle and the struggle and the push and the grind and the like pedal to the metal and like hit the pavement. Like sometimes hard work can be slow, and it can be intentional, and it can be honest, and it can take more time, but it's still hard work that is moving the needle forward. So just be diligent with the thing that God has given you to do, whether it's just taking care of your children or going to work every day, or if it's starting the business. Just be obedient and be diligent and intentional in that thing. I think I say this often. I say this to my husband and my kids and anyone who's really close to me. I'm probably one of the most patient. And it's funny because we're talking about the struggle of waiting and how I'm like, I'm probably one of the most patient, understanding people that I know. And I think because I know that about myself, I feel like God is testing my patience even more. And it's just stretching it even more. And it's just, as my patience is being stretched, like, where is my mind going? Where is my understanding going? And Proverbs, 14:29 talks about like whoever has patience has great understanding. And I think putting those two things together, right? I feel I'm learning to just trust God. Just trust God and trust him no matter what. No matter what you see, no matter what you don't see, no matter what you think is happening, no matter what you don't see happening, it doesn't matter. Just trust him. And I think the thing with trust is that it requires patience, and it requires a certain level of like, I don't see it, but I'm okay. I don't understand right now, but I know that God is working. I can't feel that I can't touch it. I'm not in that place, but I know that it's coming. And I say those things to myself. And there's like, I think she's a pastor, someone by the name of Faith Yuri Cho. And something that she says that like, the other night when I was crying in bed, like that God is up to something. He's always up to something. And the Bible tells us that like the plan for our lives as believers has been laid out long ago, way before we got here, way before our parents even got together, way before the beginnings of the earth. He knew, and he had a plan. And if God can be so intentional, and I just think like how intimate it is to have planned out every single step that far long ago. Like, who am I to not trust that he knows what's happening and he's got a handle on it? You know, I think I talked about this like in a previous episode where I'm like, as a mom, as a wife, like I'm in the middle of everything. My hands are in everything, and I'm always like, feel like moving pieces on the board. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Iron Man, where he's like just, and like the screen is just going, like that's kind of just what I visualize like myself doing as I'm making appointments and getting kids registered for school, or, you know, doing groceries, making dinner, like laundry, meal prep, like all of these things. I'm moving all of the pieces around in my family's life. But God did that for my life way before like my parents were even born. You know what I mean? And it's just like all of the pieces are in their place. I just have to have enough trust and understanding to know that God knows what he's doing. And in the waiting, it's not our nature to have to wait. You know, if you think of something simple like putting food in the microwave, right? Something that takes 3 minutes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like looking back at it, like, is it time yet? Like, is it time yet? You know that clock is going to run out. You know that the bell is going to ding and the food is going to be ready, but we're still like looking at it. Like, that's us as humans in our true nature. And God has already accounted for that and has sent us his word to tell us like, just trust me, I got this, right? And he just already knows. And there's a friend I was talking to, we talk often about just how intentional God is and how we see him showing up. And when we are desperate for an answer and we're desperate to know what's going on, he already has put things in place to meet us at the point is when we're ready for that answer. So just an example, right? So the other night, like I said, I was in bed and I was praying, I was crying, I was singing that song to myself. And I was like, God, I know you're up to something. You know, I went to bed and on my way into work, I'm just like, God, I trust you. I trust you. And he's like, I will take care of you. That's all I heard. And it's like, okay, you know, I trust you. I trust you. I trust that you will take care of it, right? And during work, I was talking to my husband, like we have a truck and it was like smoking the other day. And I'm like, listen, like I trust that God will provide. If and when, it's probably more of a when, it's time to get another car and like I take on that car payment, God will provide. I believe it 100%. I have no doubt because he told me he would take care of it. He told me I can trust him, right? My husband's like, amen. Like, okay. So I go back to my desk and on my phone, I have like my business line, like a Google Voice number. My phone rings and well, take a step back. I get a notification that someone is on my website for my photo booth company. And then my phone rings. And sometimes it's spam, sometimes it's not, but I answered it. And it was like a lady looking for a photo booth for a big gala like in October, and she just wanted a quote, and I told her what we would do, and she's like, oh my God, that's perfect. Like, that's exactly what we want. So I sent off a proposal, everything is good, right? No sooner did I get back to my desk, did I have an email come through on my phone from a client that booked me twice in July, who's saying, hey, we want the photo booth again. We have an event on the 9th of September, and it'll be perfect. We want it. Like, just send us everything that we need. I had to get up from my desk, and I was standing in a corner in my office building, bawling my eyes out. Because in those two separate instances back to back, I just felt God so clearly say, like, you see, I got this. Like, you can trust me, and it's just the plans of these people who reached out to me. What others would say is just a coincidence, right? The plans that they had made, they made them, but it's not coincidence that they made them and they reached out to me. Does that make sense? So that's when I say that God is always up to something. He is always up to something. And we just have to play our role, play our position, and be obedient and trust him that he has got us, and trust him that he already made a way. We just haven't gotten to the point to where we can see that way being made. God, he's just always in control. He's never missed a moment. There's never not a minute that he's not in. He's always there. And Proverbs 14:30 talks about how a heart at peace, what does it say? A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. So for me, in the waiting, that means instead of looking at people who who are in that place, right? Who are in the place where they can run their businesses full time and they have that luxury, not being envious and like, man, like all the time being like, oh, I wish I was there. I wish that was me. I really just want that. And just being like jealous, and not praising God for them, but just being like, ugh, and having just a really nasty attitude about that not being my situation. When that kind of attitude, that envy sets in, any peace that you have is removed and it's replaced with anxiety. It's I need to get there. How do I get there? How do I make things move faster? How do I make this happen? It puts us in a place where we're just like running. I picture like a mouse on a wheel. We're just like going, trying to get to the place that we want to be, but we can't make anything happen. We can't rush God. We can't force his hand or force him to rearrange his purpose and his plan. Like, we don't have control over that. So having like that anxiety and trading your peace for that kind of anxiety, the only thing that it's going to do is it's going to tear you down from the inside out. I think I've definitely had, like, how they say, like, wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Definitely had days where I just wake up and I'm like cranky, and that, just having that feeling and letting that feeling kind of take in just poisons everything in that day. Traffic seems longer. My coworkers are more annoying. The assignments that I like, the work that I have to do is more tedious and more difficult. Like, that's normal. But how do we like practically combat that? And it's just by tapping into the peace. Like, God, listen, it's not bad. It's not bad to like, man, I really want this. I really want this thing for myself. I really want to make this happen. I really want this to be my reality. I need that breakthrough. I need that miracle. I need this circumstance to change. What's wrong is when we're not taking those things to God and we're letting Our emotions and our circumstances dictate what happens in our day, you know? So in the waiting, experience what you're experiencing, feel how you feel, but take them to God and ask Him for peace behind that thing. So that way you don't unintentionally tear down your household. You know, you don't unintentionally get in a bad attitude and just stop moving forward. You don't unintentionally trade your peace for anxiety. All of these things are things that the devil wants us to do because it stops us where we stand and it keeps us from progressing forward. There's definitely more that I can share as far as how we wait mattering. I don't know if that's always what we do while we're waiting matters, right? There's more that I can share, but I'm going to stop this episode here and we'll pick it up in the next one. But if this message, any part of this message resonated with you, if it encouraged you, if you shared it with somebody, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram. All of the information is on there. But yeah, that's all we got. Episode 1, season 2 is a wrap, and I will see you guys in the next one.